This is why you're not confident in yourself. If you're watching this video, chances are you are somebody who struggles with ultimately being comfortable with yourself. You're, somebody who really, you kind of feel like you have something holding you back, and ultimately you don't know what it is, but you know that it's there. Like you can always feel it, like in the back of your neck, or like there's this invisible hand that's hovering around, and it's kind of like holding you back, right? And you can't put a finger on it of what exactly it is, but you just know that there's something there. And so if you're watching this video and you do feel like you've been held back for some time, 99% of the time, 99.9% of the time, which means that the reason why you're being held back is because there's some things that you just haven't really addressed, that basically happened years and years ago, right? And because whatever it is that did happen that time up until now, you have these moments where you feel like you can't express yourself the way that you would, like unapologetically, right? Whether it's in groups, when you're at social events, if you're with a girl or a guy, or you're just meeting somebody, trying to make new friends, trying to get out of your comfort zone, people at your workplace, whatever the fuck it is, you just kind of feel out of place in a sense. Or like, yeah, you can socialize, of course, you can just talk to another human being, but you can't really just show your true character, like your full power, and just be without any kind of performance, without any kinds of, you know, gimmick or faking it. And so that unapologetic version of you just stays inside, and it never comes out. And you have the obvious fear of rejection, right? That's everybody. We have these fears of, you know, if you do show your true self, then okay, people are not gonna like you. You're you're not gonna smash the girl at the end of the date, or you can't really, make those friends, um, because you fear them not liking you for who you are. And then, of course, you have your people pleasing tendencies, right? Which ultimately is a coping mechanism of the fear of rejection. You just start to pander to people's interests, and you start to do a little extra. You're being extra, and it's not you, right? And these are the common struggles that literally more than 90% of people face this. Like more than 90%, maybe 95%, because everybody is controlled by their perception of themselves. Everybody is controlled by their perception of themselves. The way you perceive you, the way you see yourself, and all of the thoughts that you have about who you are is what's holding you. It's holding you back from ultimately just being you and just letting it all out, right? And so I want you right now to think back, just think back to the earliest memory that you have of yourself when you were a child, right? The younger the better, but Think back to when you were just just a kid, okay? This is when you were your most powerful self. Okay, I hear this all the time. A lot of people who are spiritual, they talk about this as well, that babies and young children, like below the age of 7, they are the most spiritual beings existing. It's not the wise old man and the old lady. It's not when you know, reach enlightenment when you're meditating, in your 30s or 20s or whatever. The young child, the young babies and the young kids, this you when you think about you in this light, when you look back in history and you remember yourself, you're just outside, you're playing with your friends, you're riding bikes, you're doing what fucking kids do, and it's just be crazy and whatever. You're raw, you're unfiltered, you're untamed, you're just being obnoxious and doing what kids do. This version of you is without a doubt the realest you could ever be. And when you are this version, you're just so fucking true to yourself. You're true to who you are, right? You're true to who you are. You eat the foods that you know you like. You reject everything that's against you. Everything that's not what you want and not who you are. You unapologetically said, no, I don't want this, man. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't want to eat the orange Skittles, you don't eat that shit. You straight up tell people, other people, that shit is nasty. You don't fucking care if they you don't care if they're gonna get offended. You don't care if nothing. You stand on business. You stand on your values. This is your rawest self, your truest self, and you say whatever you wanted. You say whatever comes to mind, and you also got whatever you wanted. Right? We can see this today. If you ever see kids in any public space, the way that they talk to their parents, and they just be crying, they just be just fucking crying, and just they want whatever they want, they're gonna get it. And that's how you were when you were a child. Like babies and young kids, especially babies, like these these creatures are designed to cry. All babies did it. Every single one of them cried, and they all wanted something. And 99% of the times, if the mom was not like a psychopath or anything like that, they're going to get what they want. They're going to get the milk, they're going to get that toy, they're going to get whatever it is, because people just can't stand the crying. And that's how strong and powerful they were when you wanted something, you got it. And it just boils down to whatever you demanded for you at that time. So that's how that's how you were when you were a kid, and you really like as best as you can, and you really got to do this because this is so powerful. Is when I say you got to look back to when you were a kid, like you really got to look back. Like look back and remember those times when you were a free spirit, where you were like unhinged, unfiltered, raw. This is you. This is really, really you. Look back at those times and remember that kid is still you. The kid is still you, and the kid is still there. And so, what happened? What happened to you over the years? Like, It's like when you meet like your old friend, they just see you after like 5 years, you just let yourself go. Like, damn, what happened to you? But like, what happened to you? Like, honestly, what happened to you? You started to change. You started to change when you started to grow up. You started to lose who you were from the original, right? You know when you take a picture and you can just edit the picture, you can throw in the filters, you can do whatever you want and just change the photo, right? And that's basically what happened over time. As you started to go through your phases in life, you went through elementary school, primary, you went to junior high school, secondary school, you went to university and college. And every single time you're going through the motions, you're going through all these different filters, you're being changed and edited and altered and filtered every single phase of your life. That's like a photo that you just go through all the different changes, right? And what else happened when you started to grow up? You started to admire people who had infectious confidence. Like if you think about who are the people that you look up to, right? If you're a guy, 90%, 80% of the time you like sports, right? Whether that's who, um, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, you know, Mike Tyson, Conor McGregor, like all these warriors and these athletes, you know, when you started to grow up, you started to admire your heroes. Okay, whether they play sports, whether they did things like pro wrestling or whatever it was, you looked up to those people who had the infectious confidence, right? Like, let's take Conor McGregor, for example. Before he went off of he started to do coke and you know, started to just be more of that famous guy. We all know Prime McGregor. This guy was it, man. It's like the way he spoke, the way he didn't give a fuck, and he captivated us because he was just so confident, and the way he does his walk. Why? Why do we admire that? Why is that something that we gravitate towards? And I'm just using McGregor for an example, but it's because it's because we see the confidence in him. It's it's something that it's like a mirror, right? We know that we ourselves have the same freedom, the same confidence, the same rawness. It's a reflection. It's something that we see in ourselves, but it's just deep, deep, deep down on us, right? That's why people in the interviews talk a lot of shit about people like Kanye West, people like Jake Paul. They say, "No, these guys are childish. These guys are, you know, they act like a kid, and this and that." But it's that same energy that we know, like subconsciously, it's deep down inside of us. But we admire these people because they're able to take that same rawness and express it unapologetically. They're able to just illuminate that whole vibe, and that frequency has us magnetized to it. And so that's what happened when you started to grow up. You lost touch of who you were deep down. You started to add all these filters, all these things to your original form. You started to look up to people who stood on their values, on their authenticity, and you started to follow along with those guys, and you looked up to those as your heroes, and subconsciously you were also feeling like you're being held back because there's a lot of limiting beliefs that influenced you, who you are, and your mindset, right? The reason why we look up to people like Kanye West, like Jake Paul, like, you're just looking at the way that they just like unapologetically are. They're able to express themselves without those limiting beliefs that's held them back, because we have our own. And to be honest, like to keep it really real, we we have our limiting beliefs, but we just would not admit it. We would not admit it, because think about it. If you never had anything holding you back, if you never had any filter, if you never cared about what people thought, if you were just your realest, truest self, why is it that you're not able to fully reach your potential? Like the highest of the highest that you could go. Why is that? And the truth is that whether you're aware of it or not, you have that limiting belief that's just holding you back. It's that invisible hand that's just orchestrating your life in a whole circle, and it's keeping you from actually breaking through that ceiling. And so that's what's been happening over time. As you went through the different phases of your life, you started to experience things. You started to experience the feeling of rejection, experience the feeling of whatever trauma that you've been through, whatever it was, that shit affected you, and that shit you held on to it, and you kept it. You kept it. And so never forget that inner child, when you were your most authentic self, when you were your most truest and realest self, you are still that kid inside. You're still that person. It never changed. No matter how you aged, it's still there. And because of all of those you know experiences that you had, and those emotions that you associated those experiences with, you labeled them. And when you labeled them, that's what became that trigger. Okay, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example, man. So let's say that we have a what's a good example. All right, so let's say that you walked up to wait, no. Okay, let's say that you had some issues with your parents, okay? And let's say that one of your parents was just never there for you, okay? For whatever reason. Your parents are probably busy with work, or whatever the case may be. Let's say that you had that issue with one of your parents, and because of that, because let's say that your mom didn't come to one of your baseball games, okay, just for example, or sports games, whatever event that meant a lot to you and you were looking forward to it, your mom just didn't show up for whatever reason. She wasn't there, right? So your mom not being there, it kind of like made you feel like you felt kind of abandoned, right? You felt kind of um, abandoned, lonely. You had this kind of like feeling of not being accepted because she wasn't there. You associated that event with the feeling of abandonment. So because you had that feeling of abandonment, when you carry on from that point, from that very moment, because it hit you hard, From that moment, let's say it affected you in ways where you started to really be a people pleaser and you didn't even know it, right? All of your friends, all of the people you associated with, you always started to, pander towards whatever they were interested in, even if it meant that you had to sacrifice a piece of who you are, right? Oh, like you did it a lot, and it was always at the cost of you being your real self. So you started to be really nice, and really nice to the point where you're just overcommitting to all these different things. You're saying yes to all these different projects, all these different promises. You say, yeah, sure, yeah, we can hang out. Yeah, sure, no, I can make it. I can do it. I can do that. I can do this. And you started to really play on this because you had like some kind of fear of abandonment. You feared that if you said no, then it would cause a lot of problems, and from that point, you have this internal issue when it comes to confrontation. Like you would avoid it at all costs. You would never, you know, you would never be confrontational with someone if it even meant just being real. So you really just did your best to really just make sure that everyone was good, and by extension it meant that you couldn't just have that inner confidence in yourself, right? You just because of whatever happened years and years ago, okay? It's not, now this is very important, is that it's not what happened to you. It's not what happened to you. It's the way you interpreted what happened to you. Okay? Whatever trauma that you went through, the way that you interpret it, and whatever emotion and feeling that you labeled that whole incident as, that's what's really scarring you, and it's catching up to you from present day. Okay? Because you got to remember is that your inner child, your child self is still who you are today. And that is that invisible force internally that's holding you back. Okay, we're just gonna keep on with this example. Okay, so because you have this people pleasing attitude, which goes below the deeper fear of abandonment, right? The feeling of being unworthy. Okay, maybe you thought that your mom not being there at your event, whatever event that was, maybe her not being there made you feel deep down that you're not worthy. You feel like you're undeserving of your mom being there to support you. And really, she could have been just really busy with something, getting stuck in traffic or whatever. There was no explanation. It's just that that's the story that you wrote for yourself, right? You said, this happened because of this. And so I have this. But this is you as a child that wrote that spell. Your child self has solidified that belief internally inside of you. And so because of that, because you're not really addressing it, and you're not facing it, you're not having this conversation, that's what's really holding you back from really you being confident to where you want to be, unleashing your raw self, your real self, your authentic self. That's what's holding you back from actually being that incredible unfiltered version of yourself. That's your true power, right? And so when I was when I was going through my own phases, and when you start to grow up, you start to mature more, you become an adult, and all these things. Have you ever heard of this saying, right? It was that the child must die, right? This phrase came about. I don't know how old it is, but it's really not new. It's really really old, but I think this phrase kind of popularized during that whole, the red pill era, where you have like the hyper masculine guys like Andrew Tate, and all these red pill, like, masculine, um all those guys, right? Like, there was this phrase in this quote that was like, the child must die in order for the man to live. And this obviously means that you need to just stop being a kid. You need to let go of all those childish behaviors, and all these things, so that you can be a man, and you can actually, like be a man, right? Make money, get success, like, fuck whatever happened to you, and just go do your work. And revenge is going to be the best success, or success is going to be the best revenge. And so that's basically how a lot of people took that quote. And I was one of them, right? I went hard on that shit. I went so hard on, like, I shaved my head. I was in my winter arc mode. I was all David Goggins on the mission, right? On the mission. I was like, fuck feelings, fuck everything else. Let's grind, let's work, let's go. And as powerful as that whole saying is, and as practical as it is to actually do that, right? It is like, at times, yes, we have to be mature, and we have to, you know be very very logical. But as I started to realize that my limiting beliefs, my inner child that wasn't healed, and all of these limiting beliefs, like an invisible hand that's holding me back, no matter how hard I tried. And I went back. I revisited. I went through my own traumas, and I wanted to uncover all of this shit, because I was tired of not reaching my full potential. So I went back and I did all the things, all the deep work, all the inner stuff. It's not easy, and it's not going to happen overnight. But I will tell you this, is that shit is literally the thing that you need to do if you really, really want that true inner confidence. It's facing those demons head on. It's looking into the mirror and finding out, because it's only you know this. Nobody else knows this. Only you know what's actually holding you back, right? Your inner child knows what it is. Your inner child is basically you, so you know what it is, and all you have to do is just have that conversation. When you have that conversation, that's when you start to really rewrite the story. Okay? It's so, excuse me. It's so important that you do rewrite the story, because rewriting the story, what does that actually mean? It means, like, when you look back at that time where your mom didn't show up for your event, and you felt abandoned, you felt unworthy, this is where you start to really rewrite history, and you tell yourself is that, mom didn't come because she got held up in traffic, and for whatever reason she wasn't there, but that's okay. That's okay. And it does not mean that it's my fault. It's not my fault that this happened. So because of that, I'm going to release this blame, release this guilt, release this shame. Just let go. Like you telling yourself this. It's time to actually let go, because now we're here and we're going to go up there. So it's time. Let's do this. Like it's time to go up, and we can do this together. So it's not your fault, and it's time for us to take that step forward. Have that compassion with your inner child, have that talk with them. And it's not going to, like, it's different for everyone. It's not always going to be that easy of a thing to just overcome, because this has been going on for years. But I'm just giving you an example of what's holding you back, how do you address it, and how you can overcome it is by rewriting the story. You gotta rewrite the story, because that's the only way you can actually let go of those invisible chains. And once you've done that, once you've reinterpreted the past, you've rewritten the history. Once you do that, you're gonna really realize is that inner child mastery is the codes to real inner confidence and happiness. If you can do this, I swear to God, this, like, money is gonna be the easiest thing, but you're gonna feel much more happier. You're gonna feel much more confident. You're like, money is gonna be a byproduct because there's nothing holding you back. Okay, you can get all the girls that you want. You can find the partner that you're looking for. You can literally bend reality. You can bend reality and shape it to whatever the fuck you want it to be, like as a child. Like go back and think, how would a child demand whatever he wants in his life? He demands it unapologetically. He says the most delusional shit ever. I want 12 supercars. I want a whole big house. Like, whatever the fuck it is, there's nothing that is going to hold you back, because you did the deep inner work. And once you master your inner child, just like what Tony Montana says, the world is yours. That is a fact, and that is the truth. So if you can master this, the world is truly, truly yours. If you resonated with this message, if you felt like this was helpful for you, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and go visit. Go visit the past. Do yourself a big favor and honestly just have that conversation for yourself. I swear to God, it's going to change your life. And you're not doing this for anybody else, but you're doing it for yourself. Let's go.